Welcome to this explainer. I want you to imagine, just for a second, standing right in the middle of a building that is literally the size of 20 football fields. It's massive. And the air around you is just constantly humming. You've got the synchronized mechanical whir of miles, and I mean miles, of conveyor belts, mixed with the super precise, quiet movements of these towering robotic arms. Today, we are stepping directly onto the floor of one of the most high-stakes, intense environments on the entire planet, Walmart's global supply chain. Now, this is a company that built a worldwide empire by mastering one specific thing better than almost anyone else in history. They move massive quantities of products insanely fast, and they slash costs to deliver low prices at an absolutely unprecedented scale. But right now, that entire sprawling system is going through a massive, multi-billion-dollar transformation that is going to fundamentally change the future of retail forever. Okay, let's dive into this.
Which brings us right to a central, honestly pretty uncomfortable conflict. Look, for investors and executives sitting in a boardroom, automating these massive operations sounds like the ultimate corporate win, right? But for the actual people, the millions of workers who have historically kept the shelves stocked, the trucks moving, and the registers ringing day in and day out, it raises an immediate, really existential question. If machines become more efficient, what happens to their jobs? Can a behemoth of a company actually automate its operations aggressively enough to stay competitive without completely shattering the stability, trust, and livelihoods of the very humans who built that empire in the first place?
To really grasp the gravity of this shift, we kind of have to stop thinking of Walmart as just your friendly neighborhood supermarket. It is, in reality, a living, breathing, global logistics organism. We're talking about moving enormous, almost unfathomable volumes of products across thousands of massive warehouses, fulfillment centers, and stores every single day. Operating at this staggering global scale creates a relentless, absolute obsession with operational efficiency. Literally every single second shaved off a delivery time and every penny saved on a single shipment ripples into millions of dollars of real-world impact. And right now, that obsession is being pushed to its absolute breaking point. Put yourself in the shoes of a logistics manager trying to compete today. Customers don't just want things fast anymore, they demand same-day delivery. They expect real-time visibility into exactly where their package is at any given second. Online ordering? It's no longer a premium luxury. It is the bare minimum baseline. Combine those extreme, constantly accelerating consumer demands with rising global labor costs and, of course, intense, cutthroat competition from tech-driven rivals like Amazon, and the pressure is just unimaginable. To survive, modernizing operations from the ground up isn't just an option anymore. It's a strict mandate.
So what's the play? This brings us to their long-term survival strategy, operational automation. And we aren't just talking about upgrading a couple of squeaky old conveyor belts here. No, we are looking at a reality where artificial intelligence can forecast exactly what products a community is going to need before a single customer even clicks order. We're talking about fully autonomous robots navigating pitch-black warehouses to retrieve those items without a second of hesitation. Inside these logistics centers, this is not some small side experiment or a cute pilot program. It is a deliberate, massive push to drastically intertwine robotics and artificial intelligence to skyrocket speed, accuracy, and cost control.
From the executive perspective, the math on this transformation is simply undeniable. Why invest billions in an automated system? Well, because an automated system doesn't need a coffee break. It processes repetitive tasks continuously, 24 hours a day, providing uninterrupted speed. It doesn't misread a barcode at the end of a long, exhausting 12-hour shift, which drastically reduces human error and operational waste. Plus, it offers instant scalability. When the Black Friday rush hits, a robotic facility can handle exploding online order volumes without linearly jacking up labor costs. And this brilliantly illustrates why, in a retail sector that operates on famously razor-thin margins, the drive toward automation is financially incredibly powerful.
But let's intentionally slow down for a second here, because while the financial logic is crystal clear on a spreadsheet, automation creates a completely different conversation down on the actual warehouse floor. Imagine being a forklift driver who has proudly worked that floor for 10 years, suddenly watching a sleek, autonomous vehicle execute your exact route in half the time. Workers don't necessarily hear the word efficiency as a positive thing. They hear uncertainty. The immediate, very human psychological dread sets in. If robots can move inventory faster, will fewer workers be needed?
And that profound anxiety doesn't just stay isolated in those massive distribution centers out in the middle of nowhere. It travels all the way to your local retail storefront. Think about the cashiers and floor staff interacting with customers daily. For them, the glow of the self-checkout screen kind of represents an invisible wall between traditional retail and a really uncertain future. As they watch these automated lanes multiply year after year, taking up more and more floor space, they're left asking the exact same question. If self-checkout expands, what happens to front-end jobs? The tension is literally palpable across the entire organization. These deeply personal fears actually translate into massive systemic risks for the company itself. The human cost goes way beyond just the fear of losing a job. There's this growing anxiety over invisible AI systems dictating work schedules and increasing employee monitoring. There's the very real, very difficult struggle of workers trying to figure out how to transition into entirely new roles. And here is the brutal reality. If a company loses its workforce's trust, the shiny new robots are not going to save them. Plummeting morale can lead to strikes, walkouts, and a major reputational hit among labor groups, local communities, and the broader public.
This is the ultimate 21st century balancing act. It's the fierce tension between the balance sheet and the human heartbeat of the company. On one side, operational goals demand relentlessly lower costs, faster fulfillment, and higher productivity. On the other side, workforce needs rightfully demand job security, fair treatment, and stability. Efficiency and employment do not naturally move in the exact same direction. So the crucial point is, it's a precarious tightrope. Automate too slowly, and you lose everything to your tech-driven competitors. Automate too aggressively, and you completely break the foundational trust of your workforce.
But here is the plot twist. The story doesn't end with robots simply replacing everyone. The relationship between technology and labor is vastly more complex than the simple narrative of machines taking all the jobs. Much like how the invention of the tractor didn't eliminate the farmer, it just fundamentally changed how they farmed, historical reality shows us that automation actually mutates jobs. It transforms the very nature of the work that needs to be done, rather than just eliminating the fundamental need for the human worker entirely. Imagine an associate who used to spend their entire 8-hour shift physically sorting, lifting, and scanning heavy boxes. That is traditional, manual, repetitive physical labor. Today, as automation takes over that physical strain, that same associate is handed a tablet. Their job is no longer to lift the box. Their job is to monitor the continuous data stream of the robotic system lifting the box. Let's look at how this builds into something new. They transition into evolved roles, things like system maintenance, data monitoring, and robotic support. The fundamental argument here is that technology actually allows associates to step away from the grueling, repetitive manual labor and focus their human ingenuity on these higher-value, tech-focused roles. However, there is a massive catch. A warehouse worker who has spent a decade expertly driving a forklift does not automatically wake up one morning with the innate skills to run predictive maintenance on an AI-driven logistics network, right? If a company wants this evolution to actually work, proactive corporate reskilling is absolutely essential. And this requires millions of dollars in investment, extreme patience, and a massive cultural shift. It's not as easy as flipping a switch. Workers must be deeply trained and supported, because if they aren't, the gap between their old skills and the new requirements will immediately turn into massive internal resistance. Walmart's multi-billion-dollar gamble teaches us a few core strategic lessons. Mostly that efficiency cannot exist in a vacuum. A technology strategy, no matter how advanced the AI or how blazing fast the robots are, is completely destined to fail if it is not intimately linked to a workforce strategy. This push is absolutely driven by intense market pressure, yes, but business leaders have got to recognize that every single efficiency gain will inherently create anxiety on the floor. Reskilling is the only bridge to adaptation. Modern companies are being forced to realize that balancing aggressive productivity goals with a deep social responsibility to their employees isn't just good PR, it is literally the only viable path forward. This journey matters far beyond just the retail sector, because it really acts as a mirror for the entire global economy. It strips away all the hype of the impressive robots and the complex algorithms, and it forces us to confront the grandest, most critical question of the modern automated era. When the machines can finally do all the heavy lifting, the rapid sorting, and the complex forecasting, what role should humans still play inside the organization?